Gettysburg Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast. Conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe.
Hello and welcome to the Seminary Explorers podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Largen, and I'm delighted today to have as my guest Dr. Jennifer Powell, who is an assistant professor in the biology department down at Gettysburg College. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
It's great to have you with us. I thought I'd start out by, I had told Jennifer that she is in a line of conversations that we've been having with scientists down at the college in light of our year of science in the seminary curriculum, trying to learn some things that most pastors don't know much about, but maybe might be relevant for public ministry and for our way of thinking theologically about the world. And so, Jennifer, I just invite you to talk about how you got into your field and what is your field exactly? What do you do?
Right now, I would say my field is studying the innate immune system. So this is one of two types of defense systems that animals can use to defend themselves against infection. And I use molecular genetic approaches to ask questions about how this immune system, how this defense system works. The way I got into it, I was interested in science my whole life. I can't remember ever not being interested in science.
Really, and not, so there's no like elementary school teacher that got you into it. You just really were always interested.
I can't remember ever not being interested in science, although my interests have shifted. So initially I was more interested in mathematics and mathematical biology.
Oh, okay.
But as I progressed through college and through graduate school, my interest shifted more toward immunology. But genetics has always been an underlying thread in what I've enjoyed studying. So went to college, majored in mathematics and biology, went to graduate school, went on and did a postdoc. So my whole life has been a pretty standard trajectory for a scientist. Mm-hmm. The way that I found out about this particular field was the way that most scientists find out about things, which is I attended a seminar. So we like to go to lots of talks and seminars. We like to read lots of papers. Mm-hmm. I went to one when I was a graduate student that just absolutely excited me because in that particular seminar, a scientist had developed a new method of asking questions about immunity. So historically, immunity has been something that we can only study in mammals, which is a very difficult scientific way to address things. The experiments are harder, they're expensive, there are a lot of ethical issues, but a scientist at a neighboring university had developed a way to use a microscopic worm to ask questions about immunity. And I already was researching this worm, and so I thought it was just an amazing way to use the knowledge that we have about this tiny microscopic worm that seems completely irrelevant to anything to ask questions about the immune system that could be relevant potentially to other organisms like humans.
So just again, I also warned Jennifer that I was going to be asking her like the most basic of basic questions. The immune system. Mm-hmm. What is involved in the immune system in the body?
So we humans, as well as all organisms, are constantly exposed to microscopic organisms, bacteria, and viruses that want to infect us. They want to cause infections everywhere.
They want to do us harm.
They do. And they're really not malicious. They just want to survive, and that's their way of surviving.
Enough. Right, okay.
They're just going about their business trying to, reproduce and get on with their lives. But unfortunately for us, the way that they do that is they take advantage of us.
Okay.
So that's not so good from our perspective.
Okay.
And so we are constantly exposed to thousands and thousands and thousands of different types of bacteria and viruses. And so if we want to survive, we have to have a way to defend ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's true not just for humans, but for every animal in existence. And actually even plants. Even plants have immune systems to defend themselves from infection as well.
Okay.
And so in humans, there are two types of immune systems. One is called the innate immune system. So it's innate, it's inherent in our bodies. And so it is the immune system that is, we like to think of it as the very first line of defense.
Okay.
If you are exposed to a bacterium, which you are being exposed
right
to constantly right now, we are both being bombarded with bacteria. Your innate immune system is that first line of defense. It prevents that infection from occurring. So it's a very fast response. It is not too specific, so it doesn't care what the bacterium is. It just, anything that's not supposed to be there, it can defend you.
And it's on our skin, it's in our blood,
it's all of the above. So
okay.
The innate immune system has components that are part of your skin. So your skin produces chemicals that keep these bad bacteria in check. It's part of your intestine. So your intestine produces chemicals that keep the bad bacteria in check there. It's also part of all the other cells in your body as well are defended by this innate immune system. There's also an adaptive immune system as the other type. And it's more complex. It's found only in mammals, so humans and other warm-blooded animals. And it is an amazing defense system that is sort of the next stage. So if something slips by the innate immune system, if it gets past that first defense, then your adaptive immune system comes in and it can help you get better, help you get well if you actually do get sick. If you do get sick, then the adaptive immune system helps you get better. And it also has a memory, so your immune system remembers what you've been infected with in the past. That's why if you get chickenpox, you never get it again. That's why we can be vaccinated against a disease, and your immune system will remember that vaccine is telling it what to look out for to prevent you from getting sick with the same thing again. So those are our two different types of immunity. But like I said, the second one is only in mammals. And other, animals with backbones, basically vertebrate animals with backbones. So the vast majority of animals out there don't have that immune system. They depend only on this first level of immunity, this first level of defense. And so that's the one that I'm focusing on. I think it's really interesting because it's the one that prevents infection. And so it's critical for that reason. I think it's interesting also because it's present in everybody. Whether you're a human or a cow or a worm or a bug or a plant, you have to have this defense. And so I think it's really fascinating to learn more about how it works.
I love, we always, when we think about the kind of theology that I do, I'm always really interested in the deep interrelatedness, not only between among humans, but among animals and really all of creation. And so we always think about the, our connections to the mammals, the upper level, the complex mammals. But to think that a little teeny worm that it's microscopic, you said, right? We can't even, would actually be able to tell us something about ourselves is just, that's amazing. Wow, that's very interesting. Well, since we're talking about the immune system, it feels to me now, so I just say this is just an impression, I have no data to back this up, that there's been an increase in autoimmune deficiency diseases, or maybe we're just discovering them, so I don't know whether that's true, and I don't know if that's anything that if anything you do has ramifications for people who are working on diseases, but...
Yeah, certainly there's been a much greater media presence talking about immune-related diseases, so autoimmunity is an example.
What does that mean? What is an autoimmune disease?
Autoimmunity is when your immune system is supposed to be attacking something foreign, like a bacterium, but instead it makes a mistake and it attacks your own body.
So is that in the innate immune system?
It's usually adaptive immunity that does that. But it's possible that the innate immune system could be mistaken in a similar way.
Okay.
So it could be tricked into thinking something is harmful, trying to cause an infection, when in reality it's just your normal cells.
Oh, okay.
So the cells that are supposed to be producing insulin in your body, they're doing a good job. They're supposed to be doing that. They're just minding their own business, but your immune system makes a mistake, makes an error, and thinks that those cells are harmful, and so it attacks those cells and kills off those cells.
Okay.
The immune system thinks it's doing the right thing, but what happens is you no longer have the cells that make insulin, and you become diabetic.
Okay.
That's an example of an autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
So anything in your body that's supposed to be there could potentially become the target of your own immune system.
Yeah.
And that's autoimmunity.
Do we know why that happens?
Why the increase?
No, why it happens? Why the body? Yeah, right.
Your body has a really elegant system of training the immune cells so that they learn what's good and what's bad. And when that system fails, then the immune system gets confused.
Okay.
So the immune system, if it doesn't go through the proper training, it gets confused. And so various things can cause that training process to fail, but that's what causes that mistaken identity.
Mistaken identity. Yeah, interesting. And you mentioned, are babies born with their innate immune system intact? Or does it take and adaptive also, or does the adaptive take a while to develop, or what do we know about that?
The adaptive immune system is immature in babies. And that's one of the reasons that newborns, you have to be a little bit extra careful around them that they don't get infections, is because their adaptive immune system is a little bit immature. One of the benefits that babies who happen to nurse with their mothers get is they receive antibodies from their mothers through the breast milk, and so that helps boost their immune system until their own immune system has a chance to kind of to catch up and start working better.
Yeah.
So nature has ways to compensate for that.
Okay.
But infants do have an immature immune system.
Yeah. I saw that when I was looking at your work down at the college and stalking you online, your presence there, I saw that you have your lab, that you work with students. Tell me about what kind of work do you do with your students, and how do they, how do they come into this? Do you work primarily with majors, or do you work with non-majors, and what are the kinds of questions that really drive them in their work, would you say?
So one of the great things about Gettysburg College is we have an amazing population of students, and my favorite part of this job is that I get to work with them.
Oh, that's so neat.
They're just amazing, and so the students are the ones who are doing the research with me.
Oh,
they're not simply technicians. They're not just washing dishes. They're really my colleagues down at Gettysburg, which is amazing. And so the same questions that I'm thinking about, they're thinking about, and we have meetings where we get together and we brainstorm. What could be happening here? What questions should we be asking? How could we test those questions? We design the experiments together. And for the most part, they're the ones who are actually doing the experiments these days.
Isn't that great?
Which is really fun. I'm lucky to have such a great group of students that I've been able to work with over the years.
Well, they're lucky to have you too. What kind of questions do they ask? I mean, what's the and by the time they're to you, I mean, do you teach any just kind of intro non-major courses, or mostly are you working with the majors who have had some background and are ready to kind of delve into some of this?
The two courses that I teach at the college are genetics, which is taken mostly by sophomores and some juniors and seniors, but mostly sophomores who are majoring in biology or majoring in some other biological field, health sciences or biochemistry. And then I also teach microbiology, which is a mixture of biology majors and other majors who are have interest in biological subjects. So it's not necessarily all biology majors, but it's all students who are interested in the life sciences. Okay. But I don't teach any at the very introductory level.
Okay.
I don't teach any first year students.
Okay.
who come into the college.
Well, tell me a little bit about genetics. I mean, again, okay, genes. I get that. But what is genetics about? What kind of things do you work on in genetics, and what are some of the interesting questions that you're asking? And
so genetics is a way of approaching science. It's a mindset and a worldview and a set of techniques.
Okay.
Related to, so all of biology wants to find out about life. Biology is the study of life. We're interested in learning about life. And a geneticist's worldview, a geneticist's approach to learning about life is that we're going to focus on the genes, we're going to focus on the DNA, and we're going to focus on the function of those genes. And the way that we find out about the function is we remove the function and we see what goes wrong. Oh. So that's kind of the geneticist's worldview.
Okay.
If you want to find out how a car works, you take out the part and you see what goes wrong in the car, and then you can deduce what that part must have been doing in the car. So that's kind of the genetics approach.
At what level do you do that?
We can alter the DNA sequence itself. So genes are units of function. So a gene is made up of DNA, and it is a unit of function. So it's a unit of information that tells or that encodes one specific function in a cell. And if we change the DNA sequence that the gene is made up of, then we change that function.
Okay.
And so we can change the DNA sequence to change the function. There are also other ways that we can change the function without altering the DNA. But classical genetics is you change the DNA, and that changes the function.
Can you give me just the simplest, most concrete example that someone would do? Like, you take a skin cell and you do, I'm just trying to, I told you, right? Yeah, it would help if you taught intros, intro students. So I'm just trying to envision. Mm-hmm. So you have cells taken from somewhere that do something, and you take something out, and then you see them do something else.
More or less.
Can you put nouns to those somethings?
So, in genetics, we can be working with cells, but we're often working with whole organisms.
Okay.
So the entire animal or the entire plant, or and so what we do is we would. So, for example, we might have a worm. So I like to work with these microscopic worms. So we might have a worm that has a change in one of its genes. So one of its genes is not functioning correctly. Okay. And that causes it to do something differently. Maybe it crawls differently than it normally would. Okay. And then we have another worm that has a different change in its DNA that has a different effect. And so that maybe causes it to be a different size from how it normally is. And we want to find out if those two genes have any relationship to each other. Are the functions of those genes related? And so one of the things we could do is we could cross the two worms together. So have them mate, have offspring. And in the offspring, after some couple of generations of experimental techniques, we could get worms that have both changes and look and see what effect those changes have on the function. So what effect it has on the way that the worms crawl, the way that the size they are, if having two changes affects those characteristics in any different, differently than those changes do in isolation. So if you have, a change is a mutation. You've probably heard the term mutation.
Yes, I have heard that. We're good, Jennifer.
A mutation in a gene that affects crawling, and we know that mutation causes them to crawl in this unusual way. Mm-hmm. If that mutation is present in a worm that has a second mutation that affects body size, is the effect on crawling going to be changed?
Okay.
That if it is, that would indicate some interaction between the genes.
Okay.
So it's a lot of breeding animals together and looking at their offspring, combining, making different combinations of genes, and seeing at the effects of the different combinations have versus the genes, the mutations in isolation. And from all of these experiments, we can deduce what the function is of that gene and how those different genes relate to each other.
Okay.
In the whole animal.
Yeah. So this, of course, this is a really interesting topic because, of course, this what you're describing to me sounds like what I've heard and read described would relate to genetic engineering, right? So it seems like you would have, after you've done the kind of analytical piece of the research, then there could also be this kind of prescriptive, right? So where you could again, I don't know if the right verb is engineer genes to avoid certain disorders, or right, and I know one of my doctor father, who is he did a lot with religion and science. He has a book he's very provocative, so it's called Playing God. So and we get really, the theologians and the ethicists get nervous about that, right? And so so I'm envisioning now, I'm thinking about our audience and thinking about, that I imagine that's how does at what point, even when you're talking about mating different animals and doing that work, I mean, how do you think about this ethically, or at what point do you?
The theologians and the ethicists get very nervous, and the scientists do too.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
So biology has a very strong history of self-regulation and thinking very, very carefully about the ethical implications of what we do.
Okay.
So there was a historical meeting back in the 70s where the top biological minds got together for a retreat and talked very, very seriously about the new developments in the field that were first allowing this genetic engineering to happen back in the 70s when it was first being invented.
Okay.
And they came up with a set of pretty stringent ethical guidelines about what is and isn't permissible. And scientists have all agreed to follow those guidelines.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just recently there have been some new developments that have taken the field to the next step. Just in the past couple of years, with the development of some new techniques that allow us to edit the DNA in a new way.
Yeah.
And so, again, the scientists who invented these techniques called for another major meeting of the top minds in the world to come and get together and talk about the ethical implications and draft guidelines that we all as scientists agree to follow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, humans are humans, and there are always some people who don't want to follow ethical guidelines and believe that they're above those standards. So yes, there are always going to be people. Those are the people who are going to get the headlines, and those are the people who are doing some irresponsible work. But I think the feeling of most scientists is that we think very, very carefully about what we do to make sure that it's safe and that it's ethical. And we don't want to cross those boundaries because we love what we do. We love science, and we think that the benefit of responsible biology is much, much, much greater than the detriment. But unfortunately, it's hard to know what to do about those very few.
Sure. How would you
don't agree to?
Of course. How would you characterize, what are some of the overarching convictions or kind of beliefs that animate the specific guidelines? I mean, what are do no harm. Think about the Hippocratic.
Right. So
what are
do
some
no harm
of the?
Is one of the major
It is
tenets.
Okay.
And so we as a field have agreed that we will not intentionally create super pathogens, super infectious bugs that could be used to harm humanity, or could be used as weapons in the wrong hands. So we've agreed that we will not do that as scientists, even though we have the ability to. That is not something that is safe to do. So that is part of the tenet, is do no harm. But there's also, I think, whether, regardless of the theological beliefs of individual scientists, I think there is an overarching belief that there is something sacred about humans.
Okay.
And so one of the other major tenets is that we're very, very reluctant to mess with the human genome, to mess with DNA, to edit humans in a way that could potentially change future generations. So so things that would be carried on to the next generation, changes that would be carried on to the next generation.
So different from, I mean, and now maybe I'm making this up, but I feel like it's possible that even in vitro that you could, if a embryo has a disease that is going to be very detrimental, that could be fixed.
We are very, very close to having the ability to do that.
But not quite yet.
Not quite yet, in part because of this reluctance to do research on human embryos. I think many people acknowledge that it's valuable, and the potential benefit is tremendous to be able to cure a genetic disease before a person is born, before they are negatively impacted by that mutation is amazing. But understanding that that we have a different set of standards when we're working with human embryos than we would if we were genetically engineering a worm or a fly or something like that.
I like to talk about worms and flies.
Yes. So this new technology that was just developed for genome editing in the past couple of years, there is a group of scientists who claim to have used it to change the genome of human embryos, but those data, to my knowledge, haven't been validated. So it's unclear. One of the tenets of science is that experiments must be reproducible, independently reproducible. And so, as far as I know, there isn't an independent group that has reproduced those results yet. But certainly, if it hasn't been done, it could easily be done very quickly, very soon. And so that's one of the reasons that scientists are having these conversations right now about where should we be going with this technology.
It's really helpful for me. I'm sure from your perspective, you probably think this is ridiculous, but I think there's often a real misconception in some religious communities about scientists, as these kind of soulless brains who just want to kind of do the work, and so to hear that you all yourselves are having these conversations, and I mean, because again, I think this is, and I have colleagues again who work in the kind of science religion field, and to see the real fruitful, engaging conversations that we can have with one another, I think are really are really important. And so it's encouraging for me to hear that you all are thinking of similar issues that we think of on the Hill. Well, what's just to kind of to bring our conversation to a conclusion. I certainly could keep you here a long time. It's really interesting. But for you, how does your work affect the rest of your life? I mean, in terms of how when you step outside the lab and you're on the beautiful sunny day like today, or you go home to your family, or you think about the world. I mean, I kind of said to you, the so what question. I mean, what do you think it feels to you like this matters, the kind of work that you do?
I think just having the mindset of a scientist has the biggest impact on my life, or the big picture of my life, because the mindset of a scientist is that you're always curious about everything, and so you step outside on a sunny day and you notice the world around you, and you're curious about what's happening and why it's happening and how things work and how things interact with each other. So that's a mindset that translates outside of the laboratory very, very easily. And encouraging, I've got 2 young kids, encouraging them to ask lots of questions and to be excited and curious about their world as well. is a big part of their development right now when they're young and just naturally curious.
Yeah,
about things.
right.
So that I think that having that mindset is really important. Another thing is that science, perhaps this is not something that everybody's aware of, but science is a very flexible, and I would say dynamic more than flexible.
Okay.
It's a dynamic process. And so science doesn't achieve answers. It asks more questions.
Oh, that's lovely, actually.
So you never prove anything to be true.
Really?
As a biologist.
Really?
That's not our
You
goal.
don't use that language?
No.
Really?
Mathematicians prove things. Biologists cannot prove things. All we can do is come up with the best explanation that we have given the information we have at the time, and then that explanation is dynamic. It evolves over time as we gather more information, and so it's a process. It's a continual process of learning and changing and revising how we think about life. And I think, again, that mindset is one that translates really well to all areas of life, even outside the laboratory.
Well, I have to tell you, that is exactly what I do as a theologian. I mean, right, with different tools, but the sense in which, looking to see how we can make sense of the world and life in the context in which we find ourselves, but always being open to being shown something new. And I love this kind of the disposition of attentiveness, which I think also is something that's really we theologians could learn from scientists to really pay attention and just see the wonders that are there, regardless of how you think about why they're there or what they're there for. But that's really fabulous. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Our time has come to an end. Again, my guest today was Dr. Jennifer Powell, Assistant Professor in the Biology Department at Gettysburg College. Delighted to have you with us. Thank you for coming.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explores from historic Seminary Ridge in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a production of Gettysburg Seminary. We invite you to visit our website at www.ltsg.edu. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Gettysburg Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.